A fleeting moment of connection, a gaze that lingered, and in that instant, my heart began to thaw after years of silence. I am Grace Whitmore, 50 years of age, a woman who once thought the winds beyond no longer whispered my name. Yet, during a voyage to New Mexico desert, under serene nights and radiant sunrises, I encountered James Carter, a man whose gaze was filled with profound empathy. I wasn't on a quest for love, I simply yearned to experience life, to truly embrace it. Do you think that the most profound connections can emerge later in life, yet resonate more deeply than anything we've ever experienced? Stay tuned until the conclusion and let me know your reflections. For it is often the simplest of words that can resonate deeply within a soul in need of solace. Grace Whitmore had never imagined that love would find her once more. At a time when many had embraced tranquility as their guiding principle, she found herself convinced that her heart had softly shut down, not due to suffering, but because the passage of time had gradually dulled her yearning to grasp another's hand. 2 years prior, her husband had succumbed to a prolonged illness. Their farewell was soft, serene, mirroring the life they had woven together for more than 3 decades. There was no blame, no dramatic tears, only a profound emptiness lingered, and within that silence, Grace Whitmore persevered. She relocated to a cozier apartment in the suburbs. Each morning, she prepared a pot of black tea and played her husband's cherished record, an old jazz tune he would always select for Sunday mornings. Grace Whitmore mastered the art of grocery shopping solo, learned to replace light bulbs on her own, and took on the responsibilities that were once shared by 2. She cherished her independence, yet that very independence caused her to lose sight of how to rely on others. Grace Whitmore's sole daughter, Lauren Whitmore, had wed and relocated more than 300 miles away. They maintained their weekly calls, engaging in lengthy discussions at times, while at other moments, a simple goodnight text sufficed. Lauren Whitmore held a profound affection for her, yet an unspoken distance lingered, likely due to Grace Whitmore's constant facade of being okay, leaving Lauren Whitmore hesitant to breach that barrier. They cherished one another, yet in the manner that resilient women frequently do, each believing the other to be fine. That spring, Grace Whitmore finally took the step she had long delayed. She ventured solo to the destination that had long been a shared dream with her husband, embarking on an adventure to discover New Mexico desert. Not out of a desire for adventure, but because she craved a change. She craved a change of surroundings to ponder, what is my purpose in this life? The airport thrummed with life, yet Grace Whitmore sensed an unusual disconnect within herself. Amidst the bustling crowd of travelers, she stood out like a subtle brushstroke on a vibrant canvas. Youth rushed by with their luggage in tow, while couples strolled hand in hand. She remained motionless in the waiting area, one hand gently placed on an aged leather bag, her gaze locked onto the window that mirrored the soft, pale gray sky. Grace Whitmore embraced solitude with a quiet confidence. What she hadn't anticipated was the sensation of being unseen, as if, since her husband's death, no one truly acknowledged her, not with their gaze, but with their essence. The journey to Taos lasted more than 10 hours. As the journey unfolded, Grace Whitmore immersed herself in an aged novel, savored her juice, and offered polite nods to the unfamiliar faces beside her. She retained her distinctive elegance, with silver hair elegantly pinned up, a pristine white blouse, and serene, watchful eyes. Yet within, a subtle tapping echoed, reminiscent of a silver spoon against delicate porcelain, a gentle reminder that she had not fully released her grip. Upon her arrival in New Mexico desert, Grace Whitmore held no expectations of encountering anything extraordinary. She yearned to experience a sense of renewal, if only fleetingly. In that instant, unburdened by anticipation, everything, softly, commenced. Bathed in the gentle afternoon glow of Santa Fe, with a breeze weaving through the palm trees and distant birdsong filling the air, Grace Whitmore stood poised, awaiting her luggage, her silk scarf dancing softly in the wind. Her posture exuded a quiet confidence, suggesting a deep connection to this place, despite her recent arrival. Suddenly, a gentle voice emerged from beside her. "Would you like some assistance with that suitcase?" A tall figure with luminous eyes and a serene demeanor inquired in refined English, tinged with a hint of New Mexico desert rhythm. Grace Whitmore turned, taken aback by his presence, not due to his youth, but because there was something extraordinary in his gaze. He caught sight of her. Grace Whitmore offered a gentle smile and inclined her head slightly. "Thank you very much. I believe I won't refuse a touch of kindness." The following morning, Grace Whitmore rose earlier than she typically did. The sky over Santa Fe glowed with a delicate orange shade, tender as a welcome from a distant place to a soul rediscovering the art of vulnerability. She descended to the hotel lobby, clutching a petite notebook and the vintage camera that her husband had once treasured. Today marked the beginning of her adventure into the wild. The Jeep pulled up precisely when expected. It was a soft beige, gently veiled in dust, a subtle reminder of the countless journeys it had witnessed in the past. The driver emerged, youthful and tall, his bright, friendly eyes sparkling with warmth. He gave a courteous nod. "Good morning, madam. I'm James Carter, your guide for the day," he said, his voice deep and calm, carrying a softness that felt like it had been shaped by years in the embrace of nature. Grace Whitmore offered a subtle nod. "My name is Grace Whitmore. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance." James Carter guided her into the vehicle before shifting his attention to the other passengers, a couple hailing from Italy, a family arriving from Japan, and a photographer representing Canada. The journey unfolded in tranquility, a serene hush enveloping the scene, punctuated solely by the rhythmic clicks of cameras and the gentle roll of tires over the crimson soil. Yet, amidst the gathering, James Carter found himself drawn to Grace Whitmore, his gaze lingering on her as he captured images of antelope racing across the distant landscape, and he subtly made his way toward her. "Have you ever been to New Mexico desert before?" he inquired, his tone not intrusive, merely sincere and inviting. "Never," Grace Whitmore replied, her voice firming even as a subtle tremor lingered. "My husband always had a desire to come, yet we never found the opportunity." James Carter paused, his gaze drifting toward the horizon. "My father passed away when I was just a child. My mother often remarked that certain individuals, even after they have departed, continue to accompany us with every stride we take. Perhaps you continue to journey alongside him, albeit in a new manner." The words surprised Grace Whitmore, not due to their depth, but because they emerged from someone so young in such a commonplace moment. She offered a gentle smile and gave a slight nod. "Perhaps you have a point." That afternoon, as the group paused to catch their breath at a modest camp nestled in the heart of the savannah, James Carter guided Grace Whitmore to a raised mound that offered a sweeping view of the plains. The sky glowed with a hue reminiscent of golden honey, while giraffes meandered softly beside the trees. "This is my sanctuary when I seek solitude," James Carter remarked. "I had a feeling you would appreciate it." Grace Whitmore remained motionless, absorbing the scenery before her. For an instant, it seemed as though she had entered a different realm. No ringing phones, no planned agendas, no vacant seats at the dining table, only the breeze and the sensation of genuinely inhaling once more. "Thank you, James Carter," she murmured gently. "For some reason, I feel a sense of lightness." James Carter remained silent. He nodded quietly, then settled beside her, and together they observed the sun dip below the horizon in silence. Back at camp, James Carter softly inquired, "Would you care to join me and a few others for dinner outside? If you're feeling uneasy, I totally get it." Grace Whitmore paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. After years of being careful, she felt the urge to decline, yet as she gazed at his expression, genuine, earnest, and free of any coercion, she found herself nodding in agreement. "As long as I can sit near the fire, I always feel the chill when the sun sets," James Carter chuckled. "I'll reserve the finest spot for you, right by the fire." That evening, Grace Whitmore found herself by the fire, engaged in conversation with James Carter amidst a gathering of strangers who, in an inexplicable way, felt like old friends. Her laughter echoed softly, imbued with a sense of both nostalgia and freshness, reminiscent of a cherished blanket, recently laundered and infused with a delightful fragrance. In her heart, a delicate green shoot started to emerge. The third afternoon at the reserve unfolded with a gentle cadence, as if all things were inhaling and exhaling in harmony with the breeze and the glow of the sun. Grace Whitmore lingered beneath the wooden awning, cradling a cup of tea that had long since lost its warmth. In the distance, the sunset started to drape the trees in a golden hue, while the melody of birdsong resonated like a cherished recollection from the past. James Carter made his way over, a folding chair in one hand and a small wooden box in the other. "I figured you would appreciate the beauty of this evening's sunset. The sky is just clear enough, and the breeze carries a gentle greeting," he murmured, as if seeking consent. To step into a realm where his presence felt uncertain. Grace Whitmore beamed. "Your timing is always impeccable." James Carter settled next to her, maintaining a respectful space between them. The wooden box he carried contained a delicate tea set, and before long, the aroma of steaming mint leaves wafted through the atmosphere. He remarked that there's nothing quite like a late afternoon cup of tea for sparking conversation. Grace Whitmore lifted the cup to her lips, savoring the moment before placing it down, her gaze unwavering as it lingered on the horizon. "James Carter," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. Have you ever sensed that you are navigating through two distinct existences? One that is visible to all, and one that resides solely within you? James Carter remained quiet for an extended period. Indeed, he remarked, one for the task, the grins, the tales, and one I hold within. Reflections of the past. Agony. The questions that remain unspoken. Grace Whitmore glanced over at him. In the dimming glow, his visage appeared simultaneously youthful and worn. I once believed that loneliness was the most painful experience, but then I came to understand that the true agony lies in having no one with whom to share your thoughts and feelings. He nodded, pausing before responding. He chose instead to pour more tea for both of them. I can't quite grasp what you're holding, James Carter remarked softly, yet I understand that sensation when all within you falls silent, as if even your own voice begins to diminish. That halted Grace Whitmore, not merely due to the compassion in his words, but because he had articulated something she had never voiced before. They lingered in quietude for an extended moment, not the uncomfortable sort, but the exceptional kind where two individuals refrain from filling the void and instead, effortlessly coexist within it. The night descended gradually. James Carter raised a hand, gesturing toward the stars that were starting to emerge above the horizon. As a child, my father often remarked, you may not have the power to select your star, but you certainly have the ability to choose your vantage point and gaze upon it. He offered a gentle smile. Perhaps that's all we truly seek, a space to pause, a heartbeat to inhale. Grace Whitmore turned to him, her gaze softening, and sometimes all we truly require is the presence of someone who is content to sit beside us, without the need for excessive words. James Carter remained silent. He gazed into her eyes and gave a subtle nod. In that moment, Grace Whitmore was no longer an older woman adrift on a faraway journey. She was a complex individual, filled with deep emotions, past scars, and a delicate essence that had been approached with kindness. For the first time in ages, she felt a sense of companionship wash over her. The following day, the sky transformed sooner than expected. Dark, heavy clouds gathered on the horizon, heralding the imminent arrival of a torrential downpour that would drench the expansive plains. Grace Whitmore lingered beneath the camp's awning, her gaze following the breeze as it danced over the grasslands, which were starting to shift with the changing season. We'll have to postpone this afternoon's drive, James Carter said from behind her. His voice carried a subtle sense of relief. Grace Whitmore turned, perhaps the sky simply wishes for us to take a moment to pause. An hour later, the rain started to pour down, relentless and thick. The camp embraced an eerie calm, as though the very essence of nature had paused its rhythm. James Carter emerged, balancing two steaming cups of ginger tea, his gentle tap on the door frame serving as a soft invitation. No sunset tonight, he remarked with a grin, yet I sensed you wouldn't turn down a chat in the rain. Grace Whitmore welcomed him into her expansive tent. They occupied opposite sides of modest wooden chairs, the gentle illumination of an oil lamp enveloping the room in warmth. The rhythmic patter of rain on the canvas overhead created a steady, calming ambience, reminiscent of a gentle lullaby for the spirit. You've shared stories about your father, Grace Whitmore started, but your mother has never come up. James Carter offered a subtle smile, embracing the moment without hesitation. She left us when I was just a child. At times, I find myself pondering whether the memories I hold are genuinely my own or merely fragments borrowed from other narratives. Yet, one detail remains vivid in my mind, her hands. Though her face may have faded from my memory, the warmth of her hand in mine during my moments of fear remains etched in my heart. Grace Whitmore sensed a soft heaviness resting in her chest. Perhaps emotion is the sole thing we cling to more tenaciously than memory, she murmured gently. James Carter regarded her, his demeanor shifting from youthful and unguarded to one of contemplation and steadiness. How about you? Is there a thought you've kept to yourself, a secret that lingers with you daily? Grace Whitmore gazed through the tent's entrance. The rain continued to fall. I used to excel at enduring, she began, her voice unwavering yet laden with weight. I believed that true strength lay in enduring loss silently, without placing any weight on others. Yet, I gradually understood that no one was aware of my pain, as I had mastered the art of concealing it. James Carter remained silent. He gently placed his hand on the edge of the table, near hers yet deliberately avoiding contact. A subtle act, one that allowed Grace Whitmore to feel acknowledged without any weight of expectation. When I lost my husband, I didn't merely lose a person. I have lost a role. I lost the things that made me feel significant, she continued. People assumed that was okay since I rarely shed tears and continued to go about my life. Yet, not all pain manifests in tears. It remains still, silently sapping your vitality. James Carter inclined his head, his voice barely above a whisper. At times, I ponder that those who remain quiet for the longest duration are often the ones who require the most inquiries. The words resonated like a key turning in a lock hidden deep within Grace Whitmore. She smiled, a genuine smile this time. Your words always seem to hit the mark, James Carter. He responded, not always. Yet I am growing, thanks to you. The rain outside began to ease, fading into a serene stillness. Within the confines of the tent, the intimate space cradled two souls, unchained, uncommitted, merely two hearts gently rediscovering their cadence in the silence that had remained untouched for ages. The following morning, as Grace Whitmore stirred from her slumber, she found that the rain had ceased. The sun had just started to ascend, casting a delicate line of light over the tent roof, softly illuminating the dark fibers of her earthy wool blanket. She propped herself up, remaining still for a moment, before she extended her hand toward the scarf resting at the foot of the bed, gently draping it around her shoulders. Outside, the air had taken on a gentle quality following the night's tempest. The earth remained moist, the foliage clinging to glistening droplets, yet the entire campsite exuded a sense of rejuvenation, as if it had been cleansed of a lingering weariness. Grace Whitmore stepped onto the porch, and there, as if drawn by an unspoken bond, James Carter awaited her arrival, a wooden cup resting beside him, steam rising gracefully into the crisp air. Morning ginger lemon tea, he remarked as she emerged. On a chilly morning, you once shared with me that all one truly needs is warmth and a hint of citrus. Grace Whitmore chuckled gently, her astonishment evident in her expression. You recall specifics. I have a good memory when it matters, James Carter replied, his gaze as tender as it had been the day before. They lingered in silence, allowing the gentle breeze to play with their hair, while the scent of rain intertwined with the earth, weaving memories into the air. Grace Whitmore encircled the cup with her hands. She sensed a transformation within her, neither love nor distinctly joy, but a vibrant feeling awakening, a realization of being perceived through another's gaze. James Carter, she finally spoke, her voice heavy with uncertainty, I'm not quite sure what this feeling is. It feels entirely unfamiliar, unlike anything I've experienced in the past. He took his time before responding. I'm uncertain as well, but I believe not every connection requires a label. Grace Whitmore inclined her head with a measured, deliberate motion. I'm just concerned that I may be pursuing my dreams a bit too late in life. And I, James Carter murmured gently, I'm just concerned that we might overlook something wonderful, merely because we're preoccupied with whether it all adds up. A gentle breeze fluttered, teasing the edge of Grace Whitmore's scarf. She glanced at James Carter, the young man from another realm, years younger than her, yet gazing at her as if she were a tale his grandfather recounted on blustery evenings beside a groaning window. Grace Whitmore placed her cup on the table and exhaled deeply. Perhaps we should simply allow it to unfold as it will. Without any expectations or commitments, it's simply two souls who have experienced heartache, discovering how to open their hearts once more. James Carter offered a gentle smile, his head nodding in a slow, deliberate manner. I couldn't wish for anything better. They stood and ambled gently along the slender path that wound toward the expansive terrain beyond the camp, where the sun ascended, casting a warm golden glow over the parched shrubs. In the stillness of the morning, where time seemed to pause, two souls walked alongside each other, each bearing their own solitude. They did not seek to erase the void, but rather to share in the gentle act of listening together. And sometimes, as Grace Whitmore was starting to realize, the most enchanting aspect of a love story lies not in its perfection. It emerges when you invite another into a realm you've traversed in solitude for so long. A week later, Grace Whitmore found herself standing before her modest home in Santa Fe, her hands still cradling the fading warmth of her final handshake with James Carter. She glanced as the taxi rounded the corner, bringing with it the soft resonance of a journey that had altered something profound within her, quietly, without spectacle, yet irrevocably. The house remained as silent as it had been before. The lilac vines continued their ascent up the steps, while a fine layer of dust lingered on the desk where she once spent countless hours. Yet, there was an unmistakable shift in the air as Grace Whitmore crossed the threshold. More serene, tranquil, as though she had transformed from the woman who once secured this door prior to her journey. She brewed a pot of tea and nestled into her worn armchair by the window, gazing out at the backyard, the space that had once encompassed her entire existence after her husband's departure. Now it was no longer a sanctuary, it had become an integral aspect of the broader existence she was gradually learning to welcome once more. That afternoon, Grace Whitmore sat down with her laptop, ready to compose an extensive letter to Lauren Whitmore. This isn't just a brief update like before, it's a genuine narrative. The journey to Taos unfolded in ways I never anticipated. It was more than the elephants traversing the savannah in quietude, or the golden sunrises illuminating the crimson earth. I encountered an individual who guided me to rediscover my own voice. A reflective young man with a unique narrative, who reminded me that true courage lies not just in the distance we cover, but in our willingness to embrace our emotions once more. There was no romance, just a genuine connection that urged me to embrace my feelings or challenged me to let go of my true self. Yet, certain connections, rare as they are, enable us to release our fears and embrace gratitude. James Carter stood by, embodying the essence of true friendship. At times, that suffices. I no longer feel like a mere presence in this house. I discovered something I believed was gone forever. A sense of wonder, an awareness in every instant, and the conviction that age does not signify the conclusion of passion. She concluded the letter with a straightforward message. Embrace life, my dear. Not by the rules, but in a manner that allows your spirit to soar. The following day, she set about transforming the living room, flinging open the windows that had remained shut for far too long. She decided to enroll in the calligraphy class she had previously delayed, believing that handwriting had lost its significance in today's world. She submitted a volunteer application to the local community center, and that afternoon, rather than enjoying tea by herself, she strolled to the quaint cafe on the corner, where the young and the elderly exchanged books, coffee, and occasionally, a fleeting glance. James Carter remained silent, and Grace Whitmore had no anticipation of his reaching out. She realized that certain individuals enter our lives not to remain indefinitely, but to awaken within us the capacity to feel profoundly, reminding us that we are very much alive. As the night drew near, Grace Whitmore reached for her phone. A subtle notification from an overseas number lingered on the display. I trust that the scarf I left behind is still with you. The chill is settling in here as well. I am in the process of launching my inaugural company. When the time is right, I look forward to extending an invitation to you. Not in the role of a guide, but rather as a companion. James Carter. Grace Whitmore beamed. She placed the phone gently on the surface, ignited a delicate candle next to her desk, and retrieved the scarf from her suitcase. The aroma lingered, a blend of the savannah breeze, the crackle of campfire smoke, and the embrace of a cherished memory. There's always an opportunity to start anew, not by reverting to your past self, but by evolving into the person you now realize you aspire to become. We eagerly await your reflections after experiencing the journey of Grace Whitmore and James Carter. Have you ever embarked on a journey that transformed your self-perception, or encountered a stranger who reignited your capacity to feel and embrace new beginnings? We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments section below. What do you believe is the most important aspect of healing after experiencing loss? A journey, a dialogue, or merely the act of listening? We genuinely look forward to hearing your tale, and we read every comment.